So guys, plenty of Championship action to discuss in today's video. Let's jump into it. Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Championship Roundup. Now, today's video will be split into two parts. First half, we're going to be going over all of this weekend's action, and the second half of the video, we're going to be diving into the midweek games and giving you guys my score predictions for those ones. So make sure to get yourself in the comments down below and do leave your score predictions in there. Speaking of the prediction league, this is how the main league is currently looking, and I have managed to stay top for the time being. I had a decent week in terms of my predictions, but still got the likes of Kyle Barr, Jamer and Johnny Burrow all right behind me at the moment. In League 1, it's Tips who drops to the top of League 1 from the main prediction league with 98 points, just 1 point outside the main prediction league at the moment. And then for League 2, I'm seeing a lot of green arrows in here. A lot of you guys having big game weeks in League 2, a lot of 11s, 12s and even some 13s in there for score predictions, and a 15 game week from NFFC Owen. Big game week there. But without any further ado, let's talk about some of these matches. And so we'll start out with Friday night's game at the Hawthorns, where we had West Brom 1, Birmingham 0. Not the greatest game of football for the probably neutral to watch in this one. The sort of clear-cut chances were a little bit few and far between. First off, West Brom didn't really click up into gear, and throughout the whole 90 minutes really, it wasn't really sort of vintage West Brom in terms of them putting Birmingham under sort of sustained moments of pressure and creating chance after chance. And in the end, it was probably that one real moment of quality from a player as good as Carlin Grant, which went on to win this game. I think that he's really growing into that position now out on that left-hand side, and takes a goal brilliantly, cuts inside and then in at the goalkeeper's near post. But before West Brom had that goal, it was arguably Birmingham who had the better chances. They were looking fairly dangerous on a couple of the counter-attacks that they had. Sunjic had that one which just came off the bar. Bella went on that fantastic run, almost put it into the path of Scott Hogan, but the ball just got ahead of him in the end, and Birmingham will probably come away from that one feeling a little bit unlucky, to be honest with you. On another day they could have easily had a point from that one, and like I say, West Brom by no means at their best in this one, but that one moment of quality ultimately went on to win it for them. After that, to Saturday's early kick-off, where we had Fulham 4, QPR 1. It's just the nature of the Championship that Fulham are coming off the back of a 4-1 defeat themselves to then follow it up with a 4-1 victory, but by far and away they were the better side in this one, and Mitrovic set the tone quite early on. Brilliant ball which was whipped in by Dennis Odoi. He just pins Rob Dickey and gets the finish away. QPR were given a little bit of hope in the second half when Lyndon Dykes grabbed that goal. Nice little bit of link up between him and Willock, but after that it was Mitrovic again, Deco Dovary with the finish, and then Robinson to go ahead and make it 4. I do think that the way in which QPR set up is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because they will create a lot of chances and they will score a lot of goals throughout the season, but on the flip side of that, they can also be a little bit exposed in games like this, and Fulham more than reap the benefits. I think that this sort of game really suits Fulham down to the ground, to be honest with you, and it's in some of the other types of games so far this season where we've seen them become a little bit unstuck so far. Is there an argument that Seny Dieng could have done better for a few of the goals? Possibly, but it wasn't great defending all round from the overall team, and once Mitrovic is in this sort of mood like he is here, I mean, he's the best striker in the league, isn't he? And yeah, Fulham obviously are going to walk away with the points when he's in that sort of mood. Next up then to Ewood Park, where we had a bonkers game. Blackburn 2, Coventry 2. Really a classic game of two halves, which we tend to get quite a few of in the Championship. We'll talk about the positives first of all for Blackburn Rovers, and that was the opening first 45 minutes. Joe Rothwell especially looked like a real live wire for this game, involved in both goals. The first one especially, lovely little run, little flick between him and Gallagher, and the finish to go along with it, and he then sets up the second one for Gallagher, and Blackburn cruising at half time, going at 2-0, and then the second half is a complete reversal of the script. Coventry looked a lot more fired up, they were chasing down lost balls and things like that. Walker had that bit of quality to make it 2-1, and then ultimately probably a little bit of fortune in the equaliser with that original shot which comes off the post, and then Kaminski gets a little bit unlucky with that own goal. But yeah, based on that second half performance, Coventry more than deserving of that point in the end, and it does show the sort of spirit and togetherness about this side at the moment, and the sort of setbacks that they had in that first half. They were more than willing to ride that storm Fulham and come out with a point to prove in the second half. Blackburn did have a good chance to go on and win this one, but ultimately Simon Moore popped up with the save, obviously. Blackburn were without Brereton for this game like we expected, but they still had a couple of other players who we thought may have been missing, who were actually fit enough to play in the end. But yeah, to be throwing away a 2-0 lead at home especially, it's a little bit frustrating, isn't it? Next up then to Ashton Gate, and Bournemouth continue to solidify their place at the top of the Championship with a 2-0 win over Bristol City in this one. And I think that 2-0 probably reflects quite kindly on Bristol City at the end of this one, because there was really only one team in it. Bournemouth completely outclassed them, and first goal for Jamal Lower this season, and a lovely tribute to David Brooks in that celebration as well. The second goal scored by Jordan Zamira. Some real quality in this one, obviously. A bit of a dribble and the run past the player he has in the finish is absolutely fantastic. But the player that I just wanted to pick out from Bournemouth today is Ryan Christie, because I can't claim to be sort of a massive watcher of the Scottish League and things like that, and I've done a little bit of research into him when Bournemouth eventually got this deal over the line. But from the moments that I've seen of Bournemouth so far this season when Christie's been in the side, Jesus, they've got a serious player on their hands here, and someone who looks comfortable at this level and could easily be playing in the Premier League right now. I think that's 4 assists for him so far this season, and yeah, the assist for that Zamira goal was absolute pinpoint precision to just switch the ball across, just make things look so easy, and he's always quite busy on the ball, and he's happy to do quite a bit of running off it as well. So yeah, Bournemouth have got an absolute steal with Ryan Christie, and by far and away they were the better team in this one. Next up then we had Huddersfield 2, Hull City 0. Now coming into this game, Huddersfield had scored from more set piece situations than any other Championship side, and Hull had conceded from more set piece situations than any other Championship side, and so it will probably come as no surprise to learn that both goals Huddersfield scores in this game ultimately came from set piece situations. The first goal was a little bit of an unorthodox one really, with everyone sort of being crowded around that back post, then the movement into the box. Poor defending by Hull in the end, which has been a common theme throughout those sort of situations throughout the season. But to be fair, the second goal that they scored especially was a lovely finish in the end from Dwayne Holmes, who was one of the people that I wanted to pick out from this game in terms of having a really good performance actually for Huddersfield. The other player worth picking out would be Lewis O'Brien, who looked really quite busy in that midfield. I think 11 ground duels won in this game, which was considerably more than anyone else on the pitch. For Hull City, obviously the defending from those sort of situations has been an issue for them so far this season, but also goals as well. They did look like they got into some decent areas for this game. It's just that when they do get into those positions, that final pass, that final ball just isn't there with them at the moment whatsoever. Next up then to the Riverside, we had Middlesbrough beating Peterborough by 2-0, and in the end the home side had this one all too easy. Peterborough just a completely different side at home compared to away at the moment. It was another away 90 minutes where Peterborough failed to register a shot on target. Their best moment of the game came in that instance where, and to be fair to them, they should have had a penalty in this one, when Sariki Dembele poked that ball past Joe Lumley. Not sure why that wasn't given in the end, and obviously it was a penalty which ultimately opened the scoring for Middlesbrough, which Paddy McNair tucked away, and then they followed up in the 94th minute to go ahead and wrap this one up. But yeah, Middlesbrough had it fairly easy in the end and probably should have taken the lead before that penalty was actually awarded. For Middlesbrough, there is now the chance we need to really see a bit of consistency from them, because, you know, one win against the Peterborough side who have struggled away from home so far this season isn't going to, you know, completely get all the pressure off Warnock's back. And I do think that they have a decent run of fixtures coming up now, whereby I think Middlesbrough should be looking at their next 3 fixtures especially and thinking we should be winning all 3 of them. They've got games against Barnsley, Cardiff and Birmingham. All 3 sides who are really quite out of form at the moment, and you'd think Middlesbrough would be fancying their chances against. For Peterborough, they need to find some way of changing the formula away from home. Next up then to the Den, where we had Luton beating Millwall by 2-0. A Harry Cornick brace in this one, took each goal fantastically well, and it does feel like a game can get away from Millwall quite early on when the first goal goes against them in the sort of first like 10-15 minutes. It sort of derails them and throws a little bit of the Gary Rowett sort of pragmatic game approach out the window a little bit. But taking nothing away from Luton in this one, because they were fantastic and more than had Millwall's card for this one. Harry Cornick especially is on a real hot streak at the moment. He was getting into these sort of positions last season, but in terms of that final product, it just wasn't quite there in terms of a sort of goal output point of view. Obviously obviously Collins has probably been seen as like the main guy for Luton over those past couple of seasons in the Championship, but now they've moved him on and it's sort of Cornick and Adarabioyo up front. Yeah, I'm quite liking that dynamic at the moment. Clark with 2 assists as well, which I also thought was worth flagging up. For Millwall, it wasn't going to be the day when, you know, their star man Jed Wallace is stepping up and couldn't convert that penalty, but overall, really good stuff there. Really good showing from Luton. Next then to the City Ground, we had Nottingham Forest beating Blackpool by 2-1, and Forest are on an absolute roll at the moment under Steve Cooper, aren't they? And I mean, the total contrast between a performance like this and the start of the season under Houghton is completely night and day. They scored 2 goals in the end, but easily could have had 3 or 4 in this one with the chances that they crafted. I think that they managed to bypass that Blackpool midfield by the looks of things a little bit too easy at times, sort of get the turn on those players and just being on goal. I think the Blackpool so far this season are really up there for the most shots on goal conceded, and that was quite apparent with the sort of positions that Forest were getting into. But some really nice goals scored in this one. Like we spoke about for the Ryan Christie assist in the Bournemouth game, it's a brilliant cross-field switch from Joe Worrell into Lowe. He then puts it across for Brennan Johnson, who sticks it away for the first one. Bit of a mishap at the back for Forest with the Jerry Yates goal. Obviously positive for Blackpool that Jerry Yates is really stepping up to the mantle at the moment with Shane Lavery out injured at the moment. But Lewis Grabban doing what he does best for that second goal, in and around the 6-yard box, being that poacher, and makes it 2. And like I say, Forest easily could have had some more goals in this one with the chances they created. So yeah, things looking good for Forest at the moment. Blackpool, I think it's all about sort of riding out this period while they try and get some of those injured players back into the 11 sooner rather than later. After that, we had the Deep Dell where we had a goalless draw being played out between Preston and Derby, and I have to say I was really impressed by Derby in this one. I think that it was obvious that they are missing that focal point up front at the moment, because had they had you know, a prolific striker or someone who was, you know, properly capable at this level, I mean, no doubt that Derby would have walked away with all 3 points. Obviously Cullen Richards did come on in the second half as he's returning from that injury, but yeah, the sort of passages of play from Derby, how aggressive they were being in terms of their positioning. I think I was looking into the average positions of both teams on this one. I think that Lee Buchanan, who was playing as a fullback, was like higher up than anyone else on the pitch, and he was constantly making those runs on that left hand side. Ravel Morrison was pulling the strings for them, particularly in that first 45 minutes. Tom Lawrence had a couple of chances from outside the box as well. So yeah, overall in terms of like play style and things like that, I was really impressed with Derby in this one, and it's another occasion where Preston have ended up drawing, largely thanks to Daniel Iverson in there, who's pulled off some fantastic saves. In the second half, we did improve for about 15 minutes or so when we went to a back 4. Sinclair and Murphy came on, and Emile Rees had a golden chance to win this one as he was sent through by Daniel Johnson for a 1-on-1, but just couldn't quite sort his feet out. But apart from that, we offered virtually nothing in this game, and had Derby walked away with all 3 points, I wouldn't have really had too many complaints about it, to be honest. They were by far and away the better team in this one, and Preston just didn't seem motivated for this one, particularly in the first half, which is as bad as I've seen us all season. After that, we had Reading coming out on top in a tight encounter as they saw off Barnsley by 1-0. Another defeat for Marcus Schopp. We knew that we needed to see some sort of an improvement from Barnsley after the international break, and to be fair, they did get into a few more sort of goal scoring positions in this one, but ultimately it's another game where they failed to score. It's another game that they're walking away with no points. It feels like at the moment, especially in the final third, that all the burden is sort of on Cauley Woodrow's shoulders. Like, if he's not going to stick the ball in the back of the net, where else is a goal realistically going to come from? And I mean, yeah, he did look by far and away Barnsley's brightest spark in this one. Luke Southwood, once again, fantastic for Reading in goal. He's been absolutely brilliant since he's come into the side in replacing Raphael, and has more than deserved to hold down that spot. And to be fair, the Reading goal was a real moment of quality. We saw quite a few of these goals throughout the weekend, the sort of lofted ball across the pitch, and it's by Scott Dan into Swift, who takes a marvellous first touch and then just goes in on goal, takes the ball around the goalkeeper, and then coolly slots it away. And when you have a player of that quality, he's going to come up with those moments, isn't he? So yeah, good win for Reading considering all the players they've got at the moment. Barnsley have a fair few out themselves, but they can't go on like this for much longer, surely. And then next up to Bramall Lane, where we had Sheff Utd 2, 2, Stoke City 1. Now we said coming into this game that if we use Stoke as the sort of bar of quality for a top 6 side at the moment, it will be interesting to see whereabouts Sheffield United are currently at under Jokanovic. And I've got to say, pretty impressed with them in this one, to be honest with you. The sides went in a 0-0 at half time, but Sheffield United had created an abundance of chances in that half, quite a few sort of ones that have been blocked by Stoke defenders, who also had their moments in that first half as well. But Sheffield United definitely could have taken the lead in that first 45 minutes. Second half, and Stoke came out really well for it, and it was a brilliant goal by Jacob Brown outside the box. Lovely bit of footwork, and then fires it into the bottom corner. But fair play to Jokanovic, who I think deserves a lot of credit for how he actually managed that second half, because the changes that he made ultimately completely flipped this game in Sheffield United's favour. It was Musa and McGoldrick who went on to score each of the winning goals for this one. Musa with the equaliser, McGoldrick for the winner. Both of them coming on the bench, as well as I think Corona Hurahan in that second half, as they tweaked the formation and system, and ultimately it served them perfectly well. So yeah, big win there for Sheffield United. Stoke just become a little bit unstuck in a few of their matches on the road so far, haven't they? And that was our last game to go over. We have the South Wales derby to go ahead and talk over, and what a performance and afternoon it was for Swansea in the end. 3-0 and comfortably the better side. And I mean, this game maybe feels like a bit of a sort of sliding doors moment for both clubs, obviously. We were coming into this game with both teams sat next to each other in the table on the same amount of points, but it certainly feels like it's heading in one direction at Swansea and quite the opposite at Cardiff at the moment. And before we even talk about the game, looking into Cardiff's next run of fixtures between now and this next international break, I don't think there's a particularly easy game anywhere in there. They play a lot of sides who are going to be sort of top 10 sides this season in the next run of fixtures. And yeah, like we mentioned in the preview to this one, nothing can turn a fan base more than a Derby Day victory. At the same point, nothing can turn a fan base more against you than a Derby Day defeat, and especially in the manner of which they went ahead and lost this one. They were fortunate not to give away a penalty early doors for that Curtis Nelson challenge. Eventually Swansea do take the lead though, and Jamie Patterson, who stole all the headlines in this one really, lovely strike in off both posts. He then sets up both of the goals in the second half. The first assist for that Joel Perot goal, brilliant ball, but the Cardiff defence went absolutely walkabout to allow Perot to get in on goal. But some nice movement from him and a nice finish. And then Bidwell obviously with the third. Ethan Laird was a player from Swansea's point of view who really caught my eye throughout the afternoon. I thought that he was causing all sorts of problems down that right hand side. And then yeah, from Cardiff's perspective, you feel like that really could be the nail in the coffin there for Mick McCarthy. You know, I think that's now 6 championship defeats on the bounce, which is really damning, especially where they now find themselves in the league 20th at the moment, when we all thought they'd be in and around the top half of the table. So yeah, not good stuff there, but for Swansea, feels like this could really be the start of something here. There we have it though, guys. Those were all of the matches that took place this weekend in the Championship. In terms of my results of the weekend, I'm going to have to give it to Swansea, aren't I? 3-0 in a local derby to win it in that fashion. Yeah, there's no beating that, is there? In terms of my goal of the weekend, quite a few contenders for this one, but I really like that Jordan Zamora goal. The ball over from Christie, the touch, the dribble, and then the smash into the back of the net. Yeah, I really quite like that one. But as always, make sure to get all your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, without any further ado, let's head into predicting the midweek action. So as always, guys, make sure to drop your score predictions in the comments down below and get involved in the prediction league. Starting out at Ashton Gate, we got Bristol City coming up against Nottingham Forest. Bristol City not quite at the races this weekend, and I think that Forest probably fancy their chances in this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Forest in that game, and for Steve Cooper to get another win under his belt. Next then we go to Derby up against Luton. Quite a tight affair, I see this one being. I was really impressed with Derby at the weekend as they came to Preston. It's just they didn't quite have anything going for them in the final third. Maybe now with Colin Kazim-Richards though, they'll get a bit more in terms of having that focal point back. But I see that one being quite a tight game. I'm going to go for another 0-0 draw for Derby in that one, I think. QPR up against Blackburn should be a good game. I wouldn't be surprised at a goal-scoring draw in this one, but I'm going to back QPR to bounce back from last time. I think they were quite disappointing against Fulham, and they'll want to put a bit of a statement down in this one. So I'll go 2-1 QPR. Blackburn obviously definitely not at their best in the second half this weekend. Sheff United up against Millwall. I think we're going to go Sheffield United for that one. I'm going to go 2-0 to the home side. And then we got Stoke going up against Bournemouth as the last of the Tuesday matches. Oh, really tough one because Stoke at home so far have really been quite impressive, but Bournemouth obviously are on an absolute roll at the moment. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in that game, albeit I wouldn't be surprised if Bournemouth do end up edging it. Into Wednesday's game, we've then got Fulham going up against Cardiff. There's only one winner I can see in that at the moment. I think I'm going to go 3-0 Fulham in that game. Cardiff completely just not at it at this point in time. Huddersfield going up against Birmingham. Birmingham another side who it's not quite happening for at the moment. They did maybe get a little bit unlucky not to come away with a point from the Hawthorns, but Huddersfield are in a decent run of form themselves. I'm going to go 2-1 to the home side. Hull up against Peterborough is an absolutely massive game in both these sides' seasons. Both in need of a result in this one. And I can't see all too much to separate them. I'm going to go for a goalless draw in that one. Middlesbrough up against Barnsley. I'm going to go 1-0 Middlesbrough. Neil Warnock you'd think would fancy his chances going into that one, and he'll be hoping that they'll now be able to go on a bit of a run between now and the next international break. And obviously for Barnsley, it's definitely not happening for them at the moment, so I'll go 1-0 Borough. Preston up against Coventry. I am a little bit nervous going into this game because, I mean, Coventry play quite a similar game style to Derby, and whereby they'll look to dominate the ball, they'll cause us problems in the final third, and they actually have that focal point up front in someone like a Victor Gyökeres who can put the ball in the back of the net. I think that surely we've got to switch around the system a little bit coming into this one, get Murphy and Sinclair on the pitch, and hopefully then we can cause a few problems of our own. I'm going to go for a draw in that game, 1-1, but a Coventry win wouldn't surprise me with how they're playing at the moment. Swansea up against West Brom. I'm going to go 2-1 West Brom in that game, although Swansea more than capable of pulling something out of the bag like they did against Cardiff, but maybe this will be a game similar to Swansea against Fulham where the opposition just has a little bit too much for them at the moment. And then last up we've got Reading going up against Blackpool. Another game where I don't see there being all too much in this one. I think I'm just going to edge towards Reading in this game. Going to go 1-0 to the home side, and maybe with John Swift to come up with another moment of magic. But as you can see to the side of me, those are my championship score predictions for all of this week's midweek action. As always, make sure to go ahead and get your score predictions in the comments down below and get onto the prediction leaderboard. But there we have it, guys. That will wrap it up for today's video of the championship roundup. Very much enjoyed this one. We had quite a few talking points to go over, and make sure to carry on the conversation in the comments down below. All our score predictions are now in as well, so yeah, good stuff. The grind of the championship is really back now when we've got all these midweek games going on. But as always, if you went on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. Thanks for watching though, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.